Well, I hit the wrong button there. We're having some transmission problems this morning. Not sure why. Nothing surprising. So, pardon me for just a minute. Let me go see if I can figure out what the problem is. Okay, I'll be right back. Let's see if that fixed it. Sorry. In this place here, you never know how this is going to work out. So I went and checked it out, and it seems like it's okay. How's everything looking now? Can y'all give me a heads up here? Good morning. Say it's coming through okay. Okay. Yeah, if you guys would let me know that the sound and the picture okay, 5x5 okay. Like I say, this is very... I got a little winded running down there so fast, but I think we've got it solved. Let's hope so anyway, at least primarily. Okay, again, welcome everybody as you come in. Today is the 3rd of March, 2020, and I'm Roy Potter. Thank you for your patience. Every once in a while we have these technical glitches, and I just figured if I could figure it out this time, I'd just go ahead and do it. So let's hope that it works. All right. I decided to call this the Dark Arts, Who Sees You and Who Knows You. And of course, we're not talking about you folks. We're talking about the secret societies that are doing the things that they are against the people of the world. They are our punishers. They are our testers. And, there was Dante's Inferno. If any of you have ever read Dante, the story of Dante's Inferno, that's really where the first concept of that type of hell and punishment and getting beaten up and tortured and all that came from, because it was really a call out to the political and religious leaders of the day that were doing some horrible things, and the writer of Dante's Inferno was basically telling them, this is what you're going to suffer. But really what it is that's happening here. That's all happening here, and we're going to talk about that today, who it is, and most of you already know this information, but I wanted to kind of expand on it and give it to you from a different perspective. And up front, I want to tell you that what inspired me, I guess is what I'll say, to do this was Montagraph and his series on the Illuminati, and especially how it surrounds this coronavirus situation that we've been seeing develop, and now it's not going away. It's moving into another facet. But I don't want to rush into that right now. I do want to hit just a few other points real quick so that you know that I'm still concerned about these things. And of course, we could take a lot of time talking about all the subjects politically that are happening and everything else. But I just want to quickly say that my suspicions of Barr are starting to be seen by a lot of other people who are starting to come out and say, now it looks like Barr isn't going to do anything. It doesn't look like this is going to happen. Durham's report is going to be a report. Barr's not going to let it go any further than that. Greg Jarrett's saying that. Anyway, there have been a lot of people. I can't remember all the names right now, but a lot of people are coming out and saying, well, Lionel, for instance, he's saying, I don't think there are going to be any arrests. And there are all kinds of excuses for that. Oh, it'll destroy the intelligence community. It'll put our people in, all kinds of nonsense reasons, but it looks like that is what's going to happen. Barr is not the hero for us, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, in this situation, neither is Trump. I have a lot. I talked to a lady got a hold of me on Twitter the other day and was talking about her concerns. And basically, Barr's history just told everything about him that we needed to know. He wasn't going to step out of his deep state role. He just wasn't. He's too entrenched in it. A lot of us were hoping that maybe he had repented and decided to get on the good side, but that's not the case. And I think a lot of what we're seeing here with all of these events that are happening around the world are the deep state fighting back, and Barr is just there to help keep a lid on it, so that, like I've been saying, we've been placated for 3 years, and here we are at this point now. So a lot of you don't want to hear that. I hope that myself and these other people that are coming to the same conclusion, I hope we're wrong. I hope we see some things. But as I said the other day in a live stream, I think if there are any indictments, they're going to be very low-hanging fruit, like Klein Smith, for instance, and apparently not even Lisa Page for falsifying 302. And it'll probably be some Russian unknowns, that kind of thing. I don't expect much to come out of this. Low-hanging fruit, basically. They're going to the upper echelon, and Barr will help to pin this on lower-hanging fruit, if anybody, so that the institutions can continue on. Look what Barr's doing with the Patriot Act and the FISA court. He's insisting it go on, even though Devin Nunes is saying that it shouldn't. Jim Jordan is saying it isn't. Radcliffe is saying it isn't. Meadows is saying it shouldn't. And of course, Judicial Watch and all their great work showing that as well. And talking about Judicial Watch, they've won a court ruling. Of course, you probably know about this now, where Clinton will be required to give a deposition into her email situation and other things. I'm happy about that, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen. We're seeing a lot of things happen around this again. Phil Haney was found dead and shot, and they tried to make it sound like a suicide at first. It was not. It was an assassination, I am certain, as well as a lot of other people are certain. Phil Haney, of course, was the whistleblower on the DHS, talking about all of the intricacies and corruptions and seditions and maybe even treason of Obama, Clinton, and others. And so he was eliminated. Why does that not surprise anyone? And what does Barr do? Nothing. Just like the Epstein case. And somebody mentioned that Harvey Weinstein will probably be Epstein. That's probably true. But Barr and Trump do nothing. When you allow wickedness and evil to promote itself like this and to get away without justice, there is no saving our country, ladies and gentlemen. It's done. And we're going to talk about some other things that makes it done as well. I'm sorry I'm a bearer of bad news, but you have to look at this for what it is. With the states turning blue, the massive illegal immigration and immigration period, but illegal especially, with the coronavirus and the situations that are happening with that, our nation's done, ladies and gentlemen, and so you're on your own. And I've been trying to work that out for a long time, that maybe there would be some hope, but we just have to face reality, okay? We just do. So you need to get yourselves prepared as best you can. Okay, and finally, I think I'm going to do a nightcap on Thursday night. I think. I can't swear to it at this point, but I believe we're going to do a nightcap. It'll most likely be live. If I find out I can't do it live, I might do a recording and then put it up. But I thought you'd like to see my whiskey collection. And all this has happened in just the last 3 months. Because a police officer friend of mine invited me to a whiskey tasting deal, and I'll talk about it that night. A lot of you will be going, "Oh no, that's not very Christian. That's not very spiritual." All things in moderation. All things are lawful to me. Not all things are expedient. All that business. So we will be discussing that. I will show you what I had. A very good friend give me a bottle of fairly expensive scotch the other day. We met, and before we met, he called up and he said, "Hey, Roy, what's a good kind of scotch to get?" And of course, I'm still kind of new at this too, but I know if it's less than $20, it's probably not any good. And I thought it was for him, so I wanted him to get a good one. So I said, well, just don't spend less than $20. And frankly, a good scotch is going to start probably around 40 to 60, and then of course the really, really good ones are in the hundreds of dollars, which is totally out of the question for all of us. But at any rate, so we met, and he gave me a bottle of Glenfiddich, 15-year Glenfiddich, and so I want to thank him publicly. I won't say his name, but I want to thank him publicly for that. And I'm going to go buy probably one other thing today for the program on Thursday night, since he's inspired me to do that. So tentatively, Thursday night, about 8:30, 9 p.m. Mountain Time, we're going to have a nightcap about my whiskey collection. And there's some other things. I have a little, cheaper brandy and some other things, but we'll talk about all that on Thursday night. Okay, get all that out of the way. Let's get started. I want to give credit again to Monograph for the work that he's done, and this is kind of looking at what he's done from a slightly different angle, but it's the same thing. Monograph has done an excellent job. I don't know if you all know who he is. I think a lot of you do. He has been maligned. He has been had false accusations made against him, etc., etc. And of course, he's going to lose his temper after a while and defend himself or do some, when those types of things happen to you, you strike back. Some of you will think that he shouldn't have. Well, that's between him and the people that did it, as far as I'm concerned. From what I know, most of them deserve it. And when I first came out and defended Monograph, those same people started attacking me, making the same types of false accusations and things. And I understand there's some of this going on 8chan, but I don't even look at 8chan. I consider that to be a waste of time, and it is. But at any rate, so I want to make sure that you understand that Monograph is his information on the Illuminati, what he has been studying for apparently about 2 or 3 decades, I guess, on the Illuminati, has given him insights into their codes. And that doesn't mean he fully understands it all the time, because those things can be used in different ways. And we'll talk at least about one of those today, about the word mystery in Greek and what it translates to in Hebrew. We'll talk about that, and you'll see what I'm talking about. You go, oh, no, we're not going to get into Hebrew. Let me explain something, ladies and gentlemen. The secret societies that run the intelligence community, which is the arm of the secret society, along with the banks, okay? Whether you believe this stuff or not, they do, and they apply these secrets. What they are is their codes and their, I don't want to say a fraternity, but they are a secret society, and they use these things to communicate with each other. So they may not even believe the bottom line of spirits and demons and all that. Oh, I think most of them do. But they really do have this insight thing where they think that they're entitled to God's place. Okay? That's really what they look at. And as a matter of fact, it's even worse than that. They think they are God. Okay? So a lot of this is going to seem very strange that I would cover this again. For those of you who don't want to get into this, feel free to go. I won't feel bad about it, because we're going to talk about some scriptures again to back us up. Now, as I've said for many, many years, the Bible is a playbook not only for the good side, but also for the evil. It's both. You can find directions and things in there that go on both ways. At the very least, the good things are twisted by the evil side, and they use some of the same symbolism and the same verbiage sometimes even the same, they'll espouse the same principles, but they're twisted to just enough to where it can be used for evil. So what I'm going to talk about today is I'm going to focus on what's happened with this coronavirus thing, which I do believe is a bioweapon, whether or not it was. There's a disagreement on whether or not it has been manipulated by man. I think the evidence is there. InfoWars, I think it was Mike Adams from Natural News. He was hosting InfoWars last week, and he had a scientist on who was saying that what he saw was that this was organic, that it was in nature, and that it had been released. My personal opinion is, and it's just an opinion, but from what I've heard from all of the other professionals in the field, it's very possible that the sample he got was not, because there'll be many different types. The sample he got was probably not the actual one that was released in Wuhan. Who knows for sure? But the bottom line is this. It has been used as a bioweapon. It has been used to cause chaos, concern, interrupt economics, the supply chains, and to take care of dissidents, which is exactly how a bioweapon would be used, the enemy, so to speak. So let's get into some of this. And again, I'm giving Monograph the honor for having inspired me to talk about these things today. So what happened here? I think we all know the basics. It's some of the details we're not sure of exactly where the virus came from and those types of things, and where it originated and how it got to Wuhan. All that doesn't matter. We're going to put all that behind us, and we're going to talk about what it did. And what it did do was this. Because of the Hong Kong riots and because of the other, and there have been riots in China for a long time over food and terrible work hours and all types of things. And thank you, Tim Cook, for taking advantage of those poor Chinese people. They have been murdered and enslaved and tortured for way too long. And all you're doing is helping that. And really, us as Americans are too, because we think those cheap goods are worth the slave labor over there that those poor people go through. But they've had a lot of other things. Of course, the purges. Mao himself killed like 60 million of them, maybe more. And I suspect, because of the math that we're hearing about with this coronavirus thing, subsequent to the Hong Kong demonstrations and the other things that were going on in China, this was used. It was released, and it had a couple of purposes, actually more than that, from what I can tell. And the purposes were, number one, to justify under a medical martial law, basically was what it is, to round up the dissidents under that cover. And we saw evidence of that. Okay, that's definitely happened. Number two, the Chinese population, it is the older generation. You know, it's basically my age, the boomer age, and older. And those people are becoming a strain on the social safety nets of all of these different governments. And we're going to talk about what I learned back when I was in elementary and junior high school that prepped baby boomers to accept this. That actually happened. And I think anybody who's a boomer, that when I start talking about this situation, you'll remember going through a class that talked about it. So this has been going on for a long time. They talked about many years ago that they had to come up with a solution for not being able to keep Social Security in our country solvent. And of course, that same situation has happened worldwide. And Monograph has been very good at explaining that, as has Alex Jones. I must admit that Alex has been on the spearhead of this at the same time. Monograph gets into more of the esoteric and understanding the codes and stuff. Alex just says pragmatically and practically what's happening. But they've both done excellent jobs. So those are the purposes, I think, and also to throw not just the economic problem, but to throw the West in chaos, because most of our tools, most of our parts, most of our medicines, and all those things do come from China. We handed this stuff to China back 4 decades ago. Remember when? Well, some of you won't remember this, but China became the number one trading partner. You know, that type of thing. favored nation status, all that kind of nonsense. Considering what they were doing, that should never have happened. That's for the manufactured goods and things like that. Very similar to what we did with Saudi Arabia for the oil in exchange for them using the dollar as the petrodollar. So these things have been used to our disadvantage. We violated the requirements of our founding fathers that we not get involved in foreign entanglements, but we do. And guess what? Trump is still doing that. I mean, yeah, he's trying this thing about getting us out of Afghanistan. Well, we'll see. Okay, caramel coffee this morning. Okay, so now that we've identified what happened, we talked about the dissidents, but there's another factor, of course, and that is the older generation. I think that Monograph is right. I think about 9%. We saw a lot of heat coming out of China. Not just the mobile incineration vans and those types of things, but burning of entire apartment complexes apparently happened. And these could have been like senior citizens' homes or whatever. But under the excuse that they had to stop the spread of this virus, I think we can anticipate, we can interpolate that the Chinese communists have probably killed somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 million people in the last 3 to 4 months. I think that would be a safe bet under the circumstances. And whether or not these people died from the coronavirus or if they were executed, like getting welded inside their apartment buildings and then the place set on fire or whatever, or they starved to death, whatever. I think that's what we've seen here. So the Chinese, and that's still not a lot. They're boomer generation and older. There are probably many more of that. I think the actual number is like 50, 60%, something like that. I might be off on that. But again, those are just details. What this did, of course, was it also interrupted the supply chains. When Trump did the tariff thing on China, he must have anticipated they were going to strike back. Did he know what they were going to do? Well, I don't know, but this all set this thing up. And so what they did was they took out their manufacturing so that we can't get the products, which then, of course, is an attack on our economy. Now, I do understand they've brought the Uyghurs, who are the Muslims, and those people that have been imprisoned out from northwestern China, and have started putting them in the manufacturing facilities. That's not a good sign, okay? They'll get rid of them eventually, too. So what this is a worldwide, I think Monograph is correct, I think Alex Jones is correct by and large, that all of the Western governments see the benefit of this, that they can get rid of their older people at a minimum and their dissidents, all under the cloak of this emergency. We could call it democide, but we've also, and that's when governments kill their own people. That's been going on in the 20th century and actually throughout time, but especially the 20th century and the beginning of this century. We've seen genocide, of course. We've seen our governments embrace massive abortions, and now it's even going to the next level of infanticide. We're seeing that. Governor Northam is an example. And, of course, we heard Bill Gates many years ago talk about, why are we going to help grandma and grandpa in their sickness when if we just got rid of them, we just let them die, we could pay for, 25 new teachers or whatever it was. What that's called, and there are a couple of different names, but I'm going to go with, and I'm not sure how to pronounce this, it's either geronticide or geronticide. Now, knowing, I remember the medicine called Geritol, so it's probably geronticide, okay? And that's the killing of the old people. Yeah, I suppose we could sit here and we could give good reasons for that. I mean, there are stories that in ancient societies, particularly this is true in some of the Native American groups, the elderly would just be left behind, under a tree somewhere with a little water and food, and when they're done, they're done. Other societies have honored their elderly, have respected them and loved them the same way that they did their infants. And I'm going to talk about a few scriptures that show that. I've actually mentioned it, but I want to read this. And yes, I'm going to use the Bible. If you don't like that, go away. It's all right with me. I'm not concerned with that. I am going to put on my glasses, though, something I don't normally do. So pardon me for doing this. I feel like I kind of look like Chuck Schumer in some regards when I do this. But yeah, my eyes are starting to give me some troubles because of looking at these crazy screens all the time. I think that's what my eyesight's actually pretty good, but all this work over the last few years on these screens has really caused me a problem. Okay, let me read Exodus 20. This is how we're supposed to be. What has society been doing? Oh, the guys in power want all the respect, but they've been teaching the younger generation to have no respect for the elderly, no respect for new life, on both ends of the spectrum, and then, of course, anybody that doesn't agree with them. You see how the younger generation, especially the people like Antifa, will pick on the older folks who are near infirm, right? Let's read some of these because I think you need to hear this. So this is Exodus 20:12. If I've got the right one here. No, I'm sorry. It's 2012. And this is an easy one, right? It's one of the commandments. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Okay? Honor your father and your mother. They're elderly, okay? Obviously. Let's go to Leviticus 19:32. Again, I know this is not a sermon. I'm trying to show you what ancient societies, how they looked at their elderly, and why this is not happening today, and why even in America this is starting to go the other way, because our secret societies and our governments have put themselves in the situation for many years where they're just not willing to do it. Leviticus 19:32. You'll see where I'm going with this in a minute. 19:32. Thou shalt rise up before the hoary head. What's a hoary head? Gray hair, white hair of the elderly. Okay? Thou shalt rise up before the hoary head and honor the face of the old man and fear thy God. I am the Lord. Okay? This is how they're supposed to do. Let's read another one. Let's read Proverbs. (1631). Again, hold on here and you'll understand why I'm doing all this. 1631, it says, the hoary head is a crown of glory. Why? You've survived life to this point. You've had all of these experiences. There's a lot of intelligence. There's a lot of experience. There's a lot of wisdom and understanding in the elderly. But we're told to disregard them now. And I know some of them are senile, and I know some of them are stuck in their old ways and stuff like that. But otherwise, there's a lot of wisdom and understanding there. So let's read that again, 1631. The hoary head is a crown of glory, if it be found in the way of righteousness. So there is an exception. So if you have an older person that's been righteous in their life, or they've learned their lessons and they've come around, so to speak, you need to respect them. Let's go to Isaiah 3 and 2. Because this is important too. Again, just stick with me here. I'm showing you what ancient societies taught and why this is such a good book. Isaiah 3, 2-5. Let's read this. The mighty man and the man of war, the judge and the prophet and the prudent and the ancient. And the people shall be oppressed, every one by another. Does this sound familiar? And every one by his neighbor. Talking about our time too. The child shall behave himself proudly against the ancient, and the base against the honorable. Let's go to 9:15, Isaiah 9:15. I love Isaiah, by the way. A lot of it's for our time. And I quoted this in a tweet the other day. The ancient and honorable, he is the head. The ancient meaning the older, and not just historically, but the hoary head as well. The ancient and the honorable, he is the head, and the prophet that telleth lies, he is the tail. For the leaders of this people cause them to err, and they that are led of them are destroyed. Isn't that what our leaders are doing to us today? And I include Trump in that at this point, until he turns this thing around. I'm not going to accept any of excuses anymore. You stand up and you do the right thing regardless of, people, oh, you gotta work it out. You've got to have this plan and all this stuff. Well, yeah, but there comes a point at which you have to speak the truth. Daniel 7, let's read this, 9 and 13. Okay, and I don't know if you know who this individual is, but I'm just going to read it. I'm not going to expound on it much more than that, but this is important to understand. This is Daniel 7, 9, 13, and 22. Chapter 7, 9, 13, and 22. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. In other words, the hoary head again. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. Let's go to 13. I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. And number 22, until the Ancient of Days, I beheld the same horn made war with the saints, and prevailed against them. Remember I've said this before? Until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. In other words, the title of my thing here. These dark arts have been in charge for a long time, but we see you, secret societies. We see you, Illuminati. We see you, the intelligence community, which is our most dangerous domestic enemy. We see you, Hillary Clinton. We see you, Soros. We see you, Rothschild, etc., etc. And we know who you are. You've been revealed. Trump's done a good job on that because a lot of people didn't see it before. So whether or not he intended to do it, although he says this was the greatest achievement of his presidency, was revealing the corruption. And that's very true. Okay? So let me go. I'm going to put this down now, and I'm going to go back in time because I was telling you that the older generations, the boomers and before, I remember several times that what didn't happen just once, both in elementary school and in junior high. I don't remember it so much in high school, but that may have happened there too. They introduced a problem. I don't know if they're still doing this today, but they introduced the problem. The problem was you have, and this is just an example, you have 6 people on a boat, but you only have enough food and water for 4. Who gets thrown off the boat? Do any of you remember this problem that you were given? Can any of you respond to me here and tell me if you remember this back in elementary school, junior high, high school, somewhere there where they gave you that problem? Anybody? Okay, Little Sprout 43 remembers that. Okay. In other words, the problem that they present to you is the exception rather than the rule. Okay? No, one get thrown off the boat, fish for food. Well, that's the idea. Frankly, what they were trying to do is they're planting in your mind that some people have to be expendable either because of their age, their sickness, their inability to help, whatever. And then Gates said it, of course, and I just talked about that, Bill Gates, that we shouldn't be taking care of an elderly sick person because we could use that money, to hire 9 more teachers or whatever it was he was saying. So this is evil, and the idea on the boat was that you have a circumstance where you're almost compelled to make that decision. But the fact of the matter is that most starvation, most calamities that have to do with food, water, etc., that happen in the world are not caused specifically by natural disasters. They're caused by politicians, by governments. Absolutely. Look at Ethiopia. Look at this situation with the coronavirus and the interruption of the supply chains, which are going to affect a lot of people. And we're just getting started on that right now. I don't think this is a beta test. I think they're going to go all the way with it. They almost have to because, the Trump movement, the national awakening, the constitutional conservatives, all of this, they've got to put a stop to it. So I think it's more than a beta test. I think we're just getting started. It's not going away. China's talking about it's under control now because they've taken care of 200 million people or so, okay, and they've interrupted the economy of the West, and the Western nations have followed suit and are now probably going to follow in some way, shape, or form the same formula. Yes, even the U.S. So all of this has happened, and the boat problem was putting that concept in our minds. The earth has more than enough to sustain many more people than we have now. It's not the earth that's not capable. It's political systems that refuse to give up power because prosperity and wealth of the people are a threat to their power and their godlike attitudes. That's the real problem. It's not the earth can't handle it. It's politics. Now, there have been, natural disasters where food has become scarce and all that. But by and large, with our technology today, that should never happen. Ever. Okay? All right, so that was the story I wanted to tell you. Oh, headlines with a voice. How are you saying? Dr. McCarthy stated the Pentagon said they're ready to mobilize. Yeah, I don't have a good feeling about this. This is not good. This is going to enable. See, Barr and Trump. First of all, Trump and everything that's surrounded him on. And I know a lot of you don't want to hear this, but look at what's happened. He's kept us busy with this whole thing with the impeachment and with the coup and all of this, not following through on his promises, the attacks on the First, Second, and Fourth Amendment, et cetera, et cetera. And the whole time, and there were people that talked about this early on. I remember them coming on here and leaving these comments that they're keeping us off what they're planning with the 5G and some type of a martial law situation. How are they going to do it? Well, it's going to be medical, obviously. That's how they're going to do it, and they can take a lot of people in under that. Remember the red flag laws and all that? You've got Barr, who's been working on the Project Guardian, which is seizing weapons from the medically and people that are insufficiently supposedly there, and that all kinds of excuses. This is Stalin is what it is. It's Stalin, it's Hitler. So they've kept us busy on all this other stuff, and now they've got this going. And the military, I don't trust them, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry. I'd like to think that the people in the military are going to do the right thing, but they didn't do the right thing in Katrina. They did not. When push came to shove, they followed their orders. But believe it or not, that's not really where our concerns are as much as the roving bands that are going to come through when there's no money for the EBT cards, the welfare, etc. When the drugs stop flowing from China, the fentanyl, and that will be the next step, of course, because they've got these people hooked, and now they're going to take it away, and they'll do anything for it. Think about this. So that's where they're taking us. Thank you, Nancy. I appreciate the. By the way, did you see that comment? And I'm not saying anything here. There was a comment the other day on Twitter. I don't think you have Twitter. At least you've never told me if you do. There was a comment, and I went out Friday night with some friends, and I posed with a lady there who's been a friend of mine for a number of years, and this person wrote on Twitter, "Hey Nancy, was that you with Roy?" I thought that was pretty cool, actually. So, of course, it wasn't the case, but I thought that was pretty cool. Okay. The Illuminati code, we're starting to understand it. Somebody like Monograph understands it in detail, but I think we understand basically what it's about. There are scriptures, and I'm going to get back to that now here for a minute. There are scriptures that talk about these secret societies believing that they can do these things in the dark, in the secret, and they will not be seen. But the people are getting the Spirit of God. There are people that have the Spirit of God, the Spirit of truth, the Spirit of the perfect law of liberty, and they're able to start seeing this now. So it's both, an esoteric thing that God is going to do it, but also a practical thing. And the scriptures are both. So let's read some of these. So they've believed that they could hide these things in secret. For instance, the child sacrifice. I read to you in Isaiah where they do these things in secret under the rocks. They kill the children in secret under the rocks. Okay? So this has been going on for a long time. Let's read Isaiah 29. And again, I'm doing this to show you that these things have been around a while. This is how you learning. This is how you learn to spot these things. Okay, it's really important. So Isaiah 29:15-21. So let's read that. Woe unto them that seek deep to hide their counsel from the Lord, and their works are in the dark. The secret societies, the intelligence community, etc., etc. Do you see how this works? And their works are in the dark, and they say, who seeth us, and who knoweth us? That's why I said, we see you, we know you. You see where this ties in? Surely your turning of things upside down, haven't they done that? Shall be esteemed as the potter's clay, for shall the work say of him that made it, he made me not? Or shall the thing framed say of him that framed it, he had no understanding? It is not yet a very little while, and Lebanon shall be turned into a fruitful field, and the fruitful field shall be esteemed as a forest. And in that day shall the deaf, what have I said, open your eyes and ears? And in that day shall the deaf hear the words of the book. You're getting it right now. And the eyes of the blind shall see out of obscurity and out of darkness. The blind shall see, and the deaf shall hear. The meek also shall increase in their joy in the Lord, and the poor among men shall rejoice in the Holy One of Israel. For the terrible one is brought to naught, and the scorner is consumed, and all that watch for iniquity are cut off. The watchers of iniquity that they're talking about there are the people that are watching to do it. That's what it means. For that make a man an offender for a word, and lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate. What have they been doing to all of us who have been calling them out? What did they do to Flynn? What did they do to Stone? What did they do to Julian Assange? Those are men that reproveth in the gate, and they make these men offenders for a word, not for their action, but for some legalese. Make a man an offender for a word. I wrote a book by that title, by the way, An Offender for a Word. That turn aside the just for a thing of naught. Boy, Isaiah 29, you gotta go read that, 15-21. Again, take these things and apply them to the practical situations in your life. Even if you don't believe this came from God, look at the understanding and the wisdom that's here, okay? And it helps you to see these people, these evil people, for what they are. You'll be able to identify them, just like Monty does, just like I do. Okay. There came a situation as an example of these mysteries, these secret societies, and I wanted to get into this a little bit. I want to read Revelations 17:5. Why do I want to do that? Now, I know some people say, that was a lunatic dude that wrote that. He's crazy. Well, there's still some good information here, okay? 17:5. What does it talk about? Well, let's read it. 17:5, it says, and upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. What is Mystery Babylon? What is that? This was when Revelations was written originally. I can guarantee you that it was written in Hebrew, and there are scholars that have studied this out and figured it out. But at any rate, it was translated into the Greek so that the people of the time, Greek was the language across the world at that point, sort of like English is today, and so that's the reason why it was translated into Greek. But the Greek word for mystery is pretty much, there's only one, basically, that you see in the New Testament. And that word is musterion. And it means shut the mouth, secret or idea of silence imposed by intention into religious rites, the mysteries. Now, Jesus talks about the mysteries of God, and a lot of people say, well, Jesus doesn't do anything in secret. That's not true. I'm sorry, it's not true. There are scriptures that talk about the mysteries and that some are given to know them and many are not. So he did talk about things. Parables were a reason for that, open teaching, but there are secret information that's passed on. But in Greek, it's pretty much that word that's used throughout the New Testament, musterion. That's not the case in the Hebrew. In the Hebrew, there are specific cases of secrets, like secret parts, your gonads. That's a different word than, say, whispering a secret. You see, there is a difference. So I wanted to talk about a few of those real quick so that you'll understand why. In fact, there are good examples of mysteries, and I'm not going to read them. I'm just going to tell you just a few of them, and you can go look them up yourself. Matthew 13:11, Luke 8:10, 1 Corinthians 4:1, Mark 4:11. Those are some examples of the good application of secrets, of mysteries. Same word, but in the Greek, it's got kind of that one set meaning, where in the Hebrew it can be good, bad, secret parts, those kinds of things. An example of the evil use of the mysteries or secrets is 2 Thessalonians 17:5. Oh, I wonder if maybe I'm quoting the wrong one. Yeah, I am, because that's Revelations. Okay, I goofed it. Look up mystery of iniquity in Thessalonians, 2 Thessalonians. I missed the verse here. I put the wrong one in. Instead, what I did was I ended up writing the Revelations chapter and verse again. But you can look it up in your concordance or in 2 Thessalonians. Mystery of iniquity doth work. In other words, they're saying already does this secret society, these mysteries of iniquity, already starting to work in the church of that time. Okay, so there are good ways and bad. Now, some of the words that are in Hebrew, just to give you an example of these different meanings. There are several of these throughout the Old Testament. I'm just going to mention a couple of them. Ta'aluma, which means a thing that is hidden or a secret. Raz, which means to hide or a mystery. And sod. This is an interesting one. This is talking about council or secret assembly. It's used in Job 29:4 as talking about a secret of God. So, in other words, there are quite different applications for the word secrets in the Old Testament, which would be pretty much the same word as mysteries in the New Testament. So what does all this tell us? It tells us that they are moving us towards a place. They've been exposed. You've heard the old saying, the best way to find the cockroaches is to turn a light on it. Right. A light has been turned on. Again, if Trump didn't do anything else ever, he did that. And no, he can't take all the action himself, but it is his responsibility to haul the DOJ in and to do what's necessary, and of course the military and all of that as well. And we need to be there to support him. The problem is that I don't see him doing that. I see him turning his back on those that have supported him. I see him, for instance, look what happened at CPAC. Look what happened with Seb Gorka, who they've said is such a great friend of the Trumps. Look what he said about Alex Jones. He called the InfoWars people loons. This is inexcusable, what's going on in the conservative realms. But it's because all of these people have bits and pieces in this evil secret society, whether they realize it or not. They've been sucked in. And I don't trust Gorka now. I never will again. I really like, as you know, I like Joe DeGeneva and Victoria Tonsing. But they've not been correct. They've given Barr a lot of accolades that he didn't deserve. Again, they put us to sleep. Do I think that Genevieve did that on purpose? No, but I wonder if maybe he doesn't have the requisite correct judgment, wisdom, understanding. He's a lawyer. You know what I mean? So maybe this type of behavior of Barr is excusable in his mind. The past behavior of Barr, which now is revealing its ugly head in our present circumstances. So what I've done here, basically, I want you to go listen to Monty and his on the Monograph channel and see the things that he's talking about on the Illuminati and how this virus is being used as a weapon to shut down our supply chains, economic warfare, and most importantly, to take out the elderly. And of course, that's in the mainstream media now. Now, medically, normally a flu will take out the elderly. I'm not denying that isn't the case. It is. The elderly, the infirm, those who have pre-existing conditions, the very young, whose immune systems are not quite developed yet, or have some other medical problem. Yes, that's normal for the flu to take all those people away from us. Yes, that's true. However, this one does seem to attack also primarily males. That might change. And of course the elderly it's really getting. But the real issue here is how it's being used by the governments to war upon their own people. Nancy Morgan Hart just talked about the military being now mobilized. They're going to use this to come after their dissidents. We're all in danger now. We're all in danger. With Barr's Project Guardian. And if you don't know what that is, go look it up. It's about seizing weapons without due process, basically is what it is. Defining who they can take them from, and it's a medical thing. Here we have this medical tyranny going on. The military is being activated. Why? Because they're anticipating when you start having, the stock market fell, 2,000, 2,500 points last week? And then it recovered, as Monograph points out yesterday, but he anticipated that, but he says it won't last long, and I agree. I'm not a financial guy, as most of you know. I'm not an economist, but it's not going to stay there. It's going to drop again, and then it's going to start interfering with people's jobs, with their pay. People will be laid off. They already have been. I know people in the business who depend on Chinese goods who now are going bankrupt because they can't get the product. Can't keep people hired. They've been, letting people go. This is going to be a chain reaction. And so when it finally gets down to the point where the government's no longer fulfilling the welfare, monies, the EBT cards, the drugs, people can't get their drugs, whether legal or illegal. When the Social Security checks stop, whatever they're doing here. They're trying to take out the elderly so they can save the Social Security and the Medicare program so that they save face. They're trying to take everybody, basically I'd say probably from 55 to 60 older. They're trying to take them out. They won't get all of them, but if they can get a good number of them, it's going to help their bottom line, which is always financial. What is that called? Mystery Babylon. It's all about the money. It's not about the principle of taking care of people. Like I read there, honor thy father and thy mother, stand before the hoary head, all of those things. You give honor to the ancient, he is the head, the prophet that telleth lies, he is the tail, all of that. We hate the infants, we kill them, and we hate the old people, and we kill them. That's where we are. That's how they're going to, and they start talking about this to the baby boomers in that problem about the boat having 6 people and you only have food and water enough for 4, whatever it was. Okay, they've been setting this up for a long time because they knew they've been talking about that's why they say they need immigration. Oh, let's have abortion and let's kill off, stop having kids, white people and everybody else, but kill off your kids, abortion, I think half of the black babies conceived are murdered or aborted. It's some horrendous figure. It might even be more than that. The point is that they kill off the young generations, they control the women, they destroy the families, and then they say they have to bring in foreign cultures to fill the jobs. Horse manure. No, we just have to get back to basics again. But that's the entire thing. Look, there's one other thing I want to do. Yes, it is evil. Oh, hi, Jesse. BP Earthwatch is here. Monty, if you're watching, you're going to have to forgive me, but I saw this, and I just have to play it. I'm sorry, I just do. Monty is a musician. He's done a number of great songs. You should go on his channel. I think he has a place where you can just hear his music. But he put this one up, and I want you to hear this. I am going to play it. It's kind of like going to be a break for you, but I also want you to just hear this. Monty, thank you for your work on the Illuminati, bringing out this information on the bioweapon, whether it's been engineered or not, it's being used as that. It's doing all the same things, taking out the economy, taking out the dissidents, taking out dissidents meaning people that don't go along with the criminal regimes, right? And also taking out the old people and the very, very young and the infirm and the sick, so that the system, the Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security nets and all that stuff can try to stay solvent, and they'll have an excuse for not being able to make those promises. So let's hear this song. He calls it Desperate Dreams. And I just have to play it because I think he does such a good job. So here we go.
So we're getting ready to go. Actually load this up right here.
Oh, yes.
I forgot all about it. So here we go right there. And they're saying it's going to snow tonight. What's up with that? All right. Anyway, that's a big ball of wax. So I guess we're going to play the song in its entirety with a graphic, I suppose. Can you hear me? Is there anybody out there? Can you hear my desperate screams? I've been waiting in the alley for a million years. I've been waiting for eternity. I've been painting the Tower of Pisa with a bout of amnesia. Oh, can you hear me? Something on your mind? Is there someone on your mind tonight? our sanity. I've been reaching for the moon in the month of June. Ah, can you help me? Is there anybody out there? Can you see my desperate dreams? I've been waiting in the alley for a billion years. I've been reaching for Mercury. I've been kissing on Mona Lisa with a bout of amnesia. Oh, can you hear me? Is there something on your mind? Is there someone on your mind tonight? There is something on my mind. There is someone on my mind
Now, isn't that fantastic? I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, I was just amazed. Absolutely amazed. I've heard a lot of Monty's music before. He and I have both. He's a much better musician than I am. I don't even consider myself a musician. I have to struggle with music. It'll take me hours and hours to get a song, just one or two lines done. And I'm not excellent at all the different instruments. It's a struggle for me. I can do it, but Monty, that was a professional studio he was in, and that was just, I think, one take there. I don't know if that's actually the one that he actually went with, but that shows you the type of guy he is. And I didn't mean this to be a pat on the back to Monty the whole time, but with all the work he's done and his wonderful music, I just had to show you that side of him. Okay. All right. Well, let's go chat for just a few minutes. I know this has been a long show already. It's been over an hour, but it's so important that we let these evil ones know that we see them. Okay. Knowing one of the things you have to find out. First of all, you have to recognize the demons, whether they're in the flesh or in the spirit. And the way you do that is by their fruits and what they do. You shine a light on them, and if you basically expose them. Also, you learn their real names. Okay? I mean, that only makes sense, right? If you find out the name of a demon, you can control them. That's what the story with Solomon is about, his talismans and all those things that he had with the demon names. He learned the names of the demons so he could control them. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but in this case, it's so that we can identify them and they know that we've identified them. Okay, let's see what a few of you have to say. Of course, I've lost most of the chat at this point. All right, you guys are having some really good conversations. Yeah, Edelson James, as always, and we've been saying this, they will destroy everything rather than lose power. That's right. So you have to get ready. The people that have been the most outspoken about the deep state and the intelligence community, they're going to face some problems here real quick, I would bet, unless Trump has the guts to stand up against them and to direct them, both the DOJ and the military. To allow what's continuing to happen to Flynn, Stone, and Assange, the Bundys out in Nevada, et cetera, I don't trust Trump. I don't. So you have to be willing to do the right thing on your own. You'll have to decide what that is, but you'll have to be willing to do it on your own. But they're not our friends up there, ladies and gentlemen. The people that are controlling the military are part of these secret societies, and they were kept after the Obama purges just simply because of that. The shadow government's working. It's work. The whole thing that Obama set up before he left. It's ongoing. Yeah, Trump has his hands full, but I'm not convinced that he's really trying to do anything about it either. I'm sorry, I'm just not convinced. And Barr is going down the same road of saving the institutions and going after the American people. Barr wants to continue. He's insisting, as I opened up this whole discussion with, he's insisting that the Patriot Act and all of its disgusting, illegal, unconstitutional provisions continue, which, by the way, are illegal because they violate the Constitution. I don't care what the Congress does. But he wants that to go along with continuing FISA, which should be totally destroyed at this point. But Barr wants to back those up, and he wants your guns, and he wants to take away your Fourth Amendment and your First. Despite all the neat speeches he gives. He's a very intelligent guy. He says all the right things, but his actions show who he really is. You can tell I don't like him, okay? The whole thing with Epstein, inexcusable. It was what do you call, a perfect storm of mistakes, or whatever it was he called it. Yeah. Either that, I doubt it was incompetence. I'm sure it was planned. Okay. Well, Michael Thomas, I'm not saying Trump is leading us all to slaughter. I'm thinking his silence is wrong. He has to know what's going on, and if he doesn't, then he shouldn't be president. Okay? I'm sorry, I don't give him any excuses anymore. There are too many of us out here. Look at his son Don Jr., who stands up so firm for the Second Amendment. Trump doesn't do that. So I just, unless Trump acts, I don't trust him. I don't. And this next 30 to 60 days is going to be very telling. They're rolling out the military, ladies and gentlemen. Do you understand that? They've reacted to this more than they have the immigration thing. Oh, wait a minute. You can declare a medical emergency and bring up the military to control a virus, but you can't to protect the southern border? What kind of bullshit is that? And these courts, as I talked about with Mark Pantano the other day, and it's on Twitter, the federal courts are creations of Congress, not the judiciary. Do you understand that? I mean, they're part of the judiciary, but they're kind of like afterthoughts. They're not in the Constitution. It does talk about other courts that they can organize and stuff, but the point is that these things were congressionally made. And Trump is bowing down to this judicial supremacy that's really controlled by Congress. This is ridiculous. And I don't care if it's his lawyers in there telling him that or the way he's decided to do this. He's got to break away from this nonsense or we're done. And I don't think he's going to break away from it. I think a lot of us are in trouble. I think they're going to kill off a lot of our elderly. I think they already are killing off a lot of our younger people, our infants. And they're going to go after people who are critical of the government and revealing their corruptions and their crimes. People like Tom Fitton, Alex Jones, Michael Savage, Rush Limbaugh. I mean, I know Rush is kind of, he tries to cover for the Republicans, I know. But the point is, all these people that have been putting the light on these disgusting, despicable, evil people, all these people that have been trying to expose that, the IC and the deep state, the shadow government hates them, and they're going to try to take them out. And if Trump allows them to do it, then he's your enemy too. And I'm just saying it. He could, at the very least, he should come out and say, I've told them, I've ordered them to stand down. They're not. Ladies and gentlemen, you've got to protect yourselves against this beast, against this Leviathan. No, I don't have control over it because it's been used against us, the good American people. He's got to come out and say it. Will they kill him for it? Maybe. Will he even be able to get on the radio or the television and say it without getting cut off? Maybe not. But there are ways around that. I don't see courage here any longer. I see acquiescence. Weakness. I'm sorry. I just don't see it any other way. Okay. Luisa Chavez, Mark. Oh, you're talking about Mark Pantano. Yeah, he knows quite a bit. He's a lawyer. A lot of people claim that he's a failed lawyer. I don't know his background. I know people that stand up and don't put up with the nonsense in the system are often branded or often made it difficult to make a living or to have a good reputation. I look at what the guy says, and he speaks it right. He's a straight shooter. It's not what you want to hear, but it's a straight. He's shooting straight. Absolutely. Project Guardian, yeah. Jade Helm, absolutely. Luisa Chavez, yeah. They did their spatial intelligence checking out. Then they did it on the ground. I know that for a fact. They checked their spatial intelligence information, and they sent out teams on the ground, both InfraGard and military and other deep state operatives, to check their information and see if it was correct. Yeah, Anybody that has spoken out at all, they're on that list. And Trump's not going to protect you, or he would have said something about it already. He's got a little time to correct this, but I don't think he's going to do it. I don't think he's going to. Balsley, yeah. Continuity government. Balsley's asking, who is activating the military? Does a national emergency trigger COG? COG works all the time. Okay? We've been told that it's, the government takes over in a national, but it's always there. It's part of the shadow government that actually controls things, the deep state and all that tries to take power away from the elected officials who try to do the will of the people. Okay? The military it's already out there. They're already doing it. The president does that. He's given the authority over to Pence to deal with it. It's already been done. They're starting to move. And Nancy Morgan Hart of Headlines with a Voice just mentioned that somewhere here in the chat. Tony Blassetti, yeah, I saw that about the different types of outbreaks every election year. It's to get you there's always an excuse behind things, right? But this year I think it's very, very serious. Yeah, Liza Jean. Hi, Liza Jean. Been a while since I've seen you, I guess. I haven't seen Kay Smalls in a long time. But anyway, you say, so the military can't secure the border, but they can disarm law-abiding citizens. I don't know that the military will do that directly, at least not initially. They'll use local law enforcement under the fusion centers and the red flag laws and Project Guardian. The military will just stand by and make sure that nobody resists. This is very bad. And of course, if they start, controlling the food, if you haven't got your storage and you go to get food at a government facility, FEMA or whatever, and you have registered weapons in your history, they're going to say, well, you need to turn those in before you get your food. You see how this works? Or if you want a vaccine, or if they mandate a vaccine and you go in to get it, same kind of thing. Or if you don't get a vaccine, they come and get you and they take your guns at the same time. You see how this works? And everything else you own, your bank account, etc. Pam Jones, howdy. Good morning, Pam. Been a while since I've talked to you. You're doing a lot of good work. Your whole pedophile exposure project has really been good. You've done as much, your work on that and your work on, the stratospheric aerosol injections, the chemtrails and all that you've done. You've done so many good things. Thank you for all you do. And you made some of my intros, which I would really like to use. And maybe one day I will again. Well, thank you for all that you've done. You've been very kind to me. And you've been very helpful for all of us. Nancy Morgan Hart of Headlines with a Voice, Gigi Sims on Twitter, Monograph, of course. All of these good people that are out there that have done so much. Carol Rushing says, Trump's plan is to get rid of Social Security. He said so in Davos. Yeah, I know. see why I'm so sick of the rallies? It's worship of a person. It's the cult of personality. We don't have principle anymore, and we're encouraged not to support principle, and that's a very dangerous position to be in. And I would go in. It's the reason why I understand Jesus Christ the way I do, because I know that the principle of taking that name upon you and being that principle, in fact, is actually even more important than the other. But I know that gets people all upset, but that's just the way it is. I mean, this tells you everything you need to know about that. But we want to worship a personality. That's where we don't understand the concept of bringing those principles and becoming those principles. But Jesus said it himself, right? Ye are gods unto whom the word of God comes. Greater things will you do than I've done, because I go to the Father. But you don't understand all this because you have to have that personality to worship. You don't want to become what you worship. And I understand that. You're not becoming God, but the principle is the important thing. This gets a little complicated sometimes trying to talk to people like this, but okay. I'm just going to go. It's been an hour and 15 minutes. I'm going to let you all go. I'm just going to come down here and see if anything really jumps out at me. Oh, that's interesting. Carol, rushing. Yeah. I talked about the Hebrew name for Trump, that the letters that they chose, and they chose the serpent letter, the tet, number 9. Right, and the heights, which would go along with that. It's interesting that he's continuing these rallies, because he really shouldn't. If we're really having a medical emergency, what the hell is he doing having the rallies? Yeah, great place to spread the germs in amongst his supporters. Isn't that interesting? Good point. Good point. He should start his fireside chats the way Jones has said, Alex Jones, and he should set things straight and tell us what the IC is really up to and expose these people. The fact that he doesn't, what he's done is expose it, but he hasn't acted on it. And he's allowed his DOJ, as I've said, to still go down this road of harassing good Americans, and that's wrong. Okay. What instrument does Monty play? He's a pianist, I know. I imagine he plays the guitar. I think he plays a few wind instruments too. He's really quite diversified. But in most of his songs, he's playing the keyboard. Okay, and he's very good. He's very, very good. Okay, like I said, I'm just rushing down through here to see if there's. Yeah, he was a little off key on that, so that's why I say it probably wasn't the final take. But even if it was, it kind of fits the mood of the song, actually. A bass player. Actually, I'm a very poor bass player. I do play the guitar. I can't play the bass, and I have in some of the songs I've recorded for my movies and the different things on YouTube and stuff like that. But it's not like I can just pick it up and do it. I have to think through it and plan it. Guitar I can kind of get by, but bass I can do it, but I have to plan it out a little bit more. Yeah, Monty sings from his soul, not his mouth. Or maybe you're telling him he should sing from his soul, not his mouth. But at any rate, I don't need to, he put together a great song there, Desperate Dreams. I thought that was absolutely fantastic. And he's done a lot of others. He's done some that they were so emotional, I get tears in my eyes from his words and the way he put together the music. Okay, I think we're done. Edelson James, anyone want to hear some of your tunes? Of course, yeah, put them up. Well, that'd be great. All right, I'm done for the day. Please go back. I have not put in all those different scriptures in the description box. Not that I'm lazy. I just, go back through and write them down. I'll give them to you again, all the ones that you probably need to look at. Okay, Exodus 20, verse 12, Leviticus 19, verse 32, Proverbs 16, verse 31, Isaiah chapter 3, verses 2 to 5, Isaiah chapter 9, verse 15, Daniel chapter 7, verses 9 and 13 and 22. Isaiah 29, 15 to 21. And then Mystery Babylon, Revelation 17:5. And then the good use of mysteries, the good use of secrets, Matthew 13:11, Luke 8:10, 1 Corinthians 4:1, and Mark 4:11. And then I had some examples of the evil one, of course, Revelation 17:5. But then I had one from 2 Thessalonians, but I forgot to write down the chapter and verse, but it's called Mystery of Iniquity. Okay? I'll leave that all with you today. Thank you for coming. Be prepared. This could be another one of those beta tests, but I don't think so. Not with what's happening. Not with the. It's amazing that they'll do this for the coronavirus, but they wouldn't do it for the invasions that are happening. Look what Turkey's doing to Greece, invading Greece there. It's obvious what's going on, and evil people are trying to destroy mankind and to make us all the same. That's their way of dealing with this, make us all the same. And that's not what we want. We like the variety. God is a God of variety. He likes variety. He just wants righteousness, the right use of things, not the wrong use. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Sorry about some of the transmission problems. I noticed that it was jumping around. It was failing to get through. That happens out here, as you know. I tried to fix a couple of things so that it would be a little better, but it still, I know, had some problems. Pardon me for that. It's just the nature of things in this area. So keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground. Keep your situational awareness on high. They are going to move against us. Monty's saying that by April 15th, the United States will be unrecognizable. Could very well be the case. I hope not. I hope that the right people will put a stop to this, that have the ability to. But just be ready to stand on your own, independent of the system. And know that if you have your head up above the rest, they're going to come and try to take it off. Because that's how these evil people operate. Thanks, everybody. See you next time. Oh, again, nightcap probably. I'm not promising it, but I'll probably do a nightcap Thursday night. I might pre-record it. I might do it live. I'm not sure. But I'm anticipating Thursday night, and it'll be my whiskey collection. Okay? It might be kind of fun. All right. We'll see you later out here.